arm swinging down, and arm swinging forward. Again, arm swinging down, arm swinging forward. Do it from the other angle. Arm swinging, right side, arm swinging down, arm swinging forward. How I like to throw the body kick, Thai style, and how I teach the body kick. So a lot of people like to preset the foot. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, I just don't like to do it that way. The reason I don't like this is as soon as this is turned, my foot is planted, I don't have any lever, any pulling action from this foot, and then it just becomes a leg swinging up. For me, I prefer to use the foot as a lever, as like a grappling hook, to then pull me forward and rotate round. If it's too set, I can't get this rotation, but we'll come back to that in a second. The first part, I want my hips facing my opponent. My feet are going to be slightly angled out. This is for 1.4 kicking, but also for Muay Thai. Obviously, if I'm two side on, it's very hard for me to defend this back. I've got to check. So if I'm facing my opponent, my legs are in this position, it's a lot easier to check straight away. And secondly, if I'm two side on, my back is open anyway. For me to kick, if I'm too far this way, my legs got all this distance to travel. If I'm facing this way, it's a lot shorter distance. So when I kick, I'm going to step, provided my foot is facing this way, in a straight line. This is going to become, like I said earlier, pulling point. My arms are going to help become levers to help pull it over and around. So what I like to tell my students is, imagine I'm grabbing a rope behind my head, I'm pulling it down to help rotate this foot and have more hip, the hips to be more explosive. So when I'm stepping, this hand will make space to drop down. As I swing this down, this is going to rotate. At the same time, this is going to then come back up to help pull this shoulder back. So then I'm using my shoulders and my hips all locked together to rotate in one motion. Without the hands, it's like a sprinter trying to run without his arms. I'm using these for power and leverage. So with this coming this position, it helps this rotation. The kick itself wants to come up in almost this angle. Some people tell you or teach you to kick straight up. I kind of like more of hip to armpit angle. Yes, I'm kicking through. The rotation then will help pull the hips round and pull the kick round, sorry. So in this position, I'm stepping, my arms come round, come up onto my ball, my foot, so I create a nice straight pull so I can swivel and pivot off. And the kick will start to come in this direction, and because of the rotation, it will pull it all the way around through my opponent. The arms aren't just there to rotate this side. It also has a second point as well. When people first start to learn to punch or kick, their initial point is to punch hard. They stiffen up and they waste a lot of energy and they slow themselves down. But we still want to create tension in the core and tension in the body to help us snap around as well. So imagine I'm trying to tear a piece of paper apart or a hard book apart, and this is going to create tension in my core, also the rest of my body to help snap that around. So when I step, I'm loose, but then when I go and rotate around, I'm snapping this down. At the same time, keeping on the subject of the arms, I can move out in this position. Now for me, this is a shorter range compared to this. If I want a fast kick, this is snapping for speed. If I want a power kick or more powerful, and I pull it down. I'll show an example in a second. So again, bring it down, hips facing, hands up. As I step, my foot lands. At the same time, arms go into the setup position. My hip is going to start turning towards the angle I'm kicking, which then creates a shorter distance and rotate the kick. When a lot of people start to kick as well, they kick out and round. My explanation of this is, if you take a pencil and a compass and draw a circle with a pencil, we want a tight circle. I'm drawing it. So this is the spike point of the compass, this is the pencil. If I open that compass out, I draw a wide circle. I want you to think of having the compass a bit narrow and I'm drawing a small circle. So the kick is going to be more direct, as opposed to, again, thinking of the compass and the pencil, drawing this big circle, I'm going to draw a small circle, coming up and rotating around. Yeah? So, the point when I'm showing the two variations of speed or versus power. So, if I'm throwing speed, it's going to snap out and coming back down. If I want more power, I'm going to snap my arm further down in this position. So the two variations for me, or we can play around in where we're going with our arm position. This obviously has carryover when we're doing our multiple kick drills, which I'll do in another video on how to do the multiple kicks. For example, if I want speed, if I want more power, obviously the two variations, more power will be a lot slower than the speed. So we have a few variations of where I'm putting my arm with that snap, but the main purpose is the same, is to rotate the hips, rotate the standing leg, create tension. Now, the other thing that people forget to do or mistake when we say rotate, they just again rotate the foot and they don't pull the shoulders around, so they end up doing this and the shoulder stays back. I want everything to work as one unit, rotate around. So, a few other things I see people doing. Again, I'm not going to say it's wrong or right, it's just the way I like to do it and the way I like to teach it. With the arm position, some people will kick and they'll throw the arm up here, trying to block their kick. For me, this is counterproductive because I want the shoulder to pull back so I can get this rotation, so I can get this rotation. If I do this, this arm is stopping this shoulder going back. I'm not getting this snap, which doesn't then pull the hip through, doesn't create power through that flow, through that target. So if I'm doing this, it stops me coming around. Now people argue, oh, it's the block. If I've got my right range and I time the kick, whether it's defensive, as someone's coming in, I'm kicking on the way in, or if I'm offensive, as they're going back, the rotation should take my head away from the punch. If see, the punch is a little bit longer than this, my head is moving away from this point. It's still staying on top of this leg. So providing I get my range and my timing right for my kick, my kicking distance, shouldn't really be anywhere near a punch. I shouldn't have to worry about this. So my head is turning away, I should still be looking at the target though. So I'm there, and I'm back. And the last thing on this video is the knee. A lot of people will kick with a straight leg. So they'll kick and the leg is straight. Again, I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just not the way I like to do it or teach. The way I like to think about it is, if my legs stop there, my hip can't travel anymore. Muay Thai is very hip dominant, a lot of the power we do. The knees, hip extension, the kicks we throw, hip extension, the teeps, hip extension. If I kick with a straight leg, my hip can't go through anymore. So I aim to get the knee to travel through first, like so. Now it gets a greater shin contact on my opponent and it allows my body to rotate around more. So when I throw the knee coming through, I can get the hip around further. I can push through more with my hip and with my shin, as opposed to up like so. I can only turn so far. So again, back to my base so I can block or do whatever else I want to do.